In the 1960s, the United States of America became involved in the civil war in Vietnam between the communists in the north and the Republicans in the south. The Americans feared that if unchecked, communism would spread throughout Southeast Asia, and they were determined to prevent this. Under President Lyndon B. Johnson, a vast military build-up took place. By 1967, 500,000 US servicemen were fighting in Vietnam. Many Americans were now asking why their soldiers were dying in this remote war. President Johnson explains in this dramatic official film.
Why Vietnam? Why Vietnam? Why Vietnam? Why must young Americans, born into a land exultant with hope and with golden promise, toil and suffer and sometimes die in such a remote and distant place? The answer, like the war itself, is not an easy one, but it echoes clearly from the painful lessons of half a century. 3 times in my lifetime, in 2 world wars and in Korea, Americans have gone to far lands to fight for freedom. Most of the non-communist nations of Asia cannot by themselves and alone resist the growing might and the grasping ambition of Asian communism.
Because this is true, and because we are a nation which honors its commitments,
we intend to convince the communists that we cannot be defeated by force of arms or by superior power. I have asked the commanding general, General Westmoreland, what more he needs to meet this mounting aggression. He has told me, and we will meet his needs.
For the first time, combat units of the United States Marine Corps arrive in Vietnam, joining other Marines already there. Army combat units also arrive, and the message of their presence on Vietnamese soil is plain. Whatever the present or future needs of the fight for freedom in Vietnam, they will be met.
Vietnam was an undeveloped, largely agricultural country. Its peasant society was now confronted with all the might and sophisticated weaponry of the most powerful nation on earth, the United States. The Western world saw pictures of Vietnam from the US side. We contrast this with rarely seen images from the Vietnamese point of view.
Củ Chi, mảnh đất nhỏ hẹp, 150 cây số vuông, với hệ thống đường bộ, đường nước thông thương, chằng chịt như mạng nhện, nằm dài trên đường số 8, sát nách Tây Bắc thành phố Sài Gòn, trung tâm đầu não của Mỹ Ngụy. Với vị trí ấy, với địa hình ấy, với thiên nhiên ấy, bao thời rồi, Củ Chi là nơi cắm trại vui chơi của khách đô thị lúc nghỉ ngơi, là đất của lao động hiền lành, đất của cuộc sống đồng quê hồn nhiên tươi tắn. Nhưng bọn cướp Mỹ tàn bạo quyết lòng hủy diệt mảnh đất nhỏ hẹp hiền lành này của miền Nam nước Việt Nam, cách xa nước Mỹ hàng vạn dặm. Với những bùa phép hiện đại, pháo cực nhanh, máy bay chiến lược B-52, với chất độc hóa học, hơi độc, chúng mong chọc một lỗ thủng vào khu tam giác sắt của cách mạng miền Nam.
This film captures the spirit of the communist guerrillas in the countryside as they prepare to confront the American war machine.
Xông vào thiên la địa võng của du kích Củ Chi. Họ là ai? Đó là những Trần Thị Gừng, người con gái bé bỏng mất cha, mạnh bằng mối thù nhà nợ nước. Người thấp nhỏ hơn lòng chiến hào, mà căm hờn nhấc lên cao khỏi mặt đất. Chỉ bằng súng trường lựu đạn, Một ngày đánh lui hàng chục đợt xung phong của đám lính nhà nghề thiện chiến. Bằng mấy trận đánh phủ đầu, tổ của Gừng diệt 118 tên giặc Mỹ.
This Pathé newsreel shows more of the immense air power that was directed at the Vietnamese.
The Americans reported close on 80 structures destroyed or badly damaged. Secondary explosions indicated that Viet Cong ammunition dumps had been hit.
In January 1968, to coincide with the Chinese New Year, the North Vietnamese communist fighters launched the Tet Offensive. The communists were able to strike right at the heart of South Vietnam by taking over sections of the capital, Saigon. American television reports came from the front line of the fighting. This was what American families saw on their televisions.
The fighting is taking place around the Cho Ray Hospital in Cho Lan, the Chinese section of the city. The most unnerving part of this kind of fighting is the possibility of snipers popping out of practically every doorway, every window. They're equipped with rifles, machine guns, and rocket launchers. This is Saigon Hospital in downtown Saigon. It's been working overtime since the beginning of the Great Tet Offensive, and it's in hospitals like this all over the country that the real tragedy of the fighting can be seen. Over 3,000 wounded have been admitted to Saigon's 9 civilian hospitals. Cases like these, bullet and shrapnel wounds. More than 200 have died in the hospitals. No one knows how many have died without reaching them. Hardly a day has passed in this war without the death or wounding of innocent civilians. George Sievertson, CBS News, in Saigon.
Vietnam was called the first television war. Pictures of the war were shown in American homes every night, and they were transmitted throughout the world. In Britain, there were newsreels and television reports about the war in Vietnam which were equally shocking. The television programme This Week ran a harrowing account of what went on in the streets of Saigon as the North Vietnamese army launched its attack and the Viet Cong guerrillas joined in. Viewers saw stark images of the war from the civilians' viewpoint, what it's like to be caught in the crossfire in your own street.
The American Forces radio told what it knew.
Saigon at 3 this morning, elements of the Viet Cong C-10 Sapper Battalion attacked the United States Embassy with small arms, automatic weapons, and RPG-2 grenade fire. They penetrated the compound. The United States Command said Marine Guards at the embassy and Army MPs of the 716 Battalion maintained physical control of the building throughout the attack. The enemy force, consisting of 19 men, was wiped out.
At the same time as the attack on Saigon, there was a bitter battle in the town of Hue. Again, American television reporters were right at the centre of the fighting. This report, too, was seen in millions of American homes.
On the 5th day of the battle for Hue, the Marines moved out from the fortified Army compound that withstood the original attack and advanced into the empty, abandoned buildings of what was Hue University. Hue, the ancient imperial city, where many of its country's leaders are born or educated, where many returned to celebrate Tet a week ago when the fighting began, where many remain hidden in the unknown interior of the resistance.
Colonel Cheatham, what's the objective and what are your men about to do?
Well, I've got 2 companies here that are just about to clear the next 2 blocks up. I've got one company in this big building here that I guess it's the end of the Hue University, and they are going to start firing in support of Foxtrot Company, which will be going up this road here on the left and attempt to take a couple large wall buildings that are on up about 500 or 600 meters.
What kind of fighting is it going to be?
It's house to house and from room to room.
Kind of inch by inch.
That's exactly what it is.
What's going to happen to civilians who might get caught in there?
We have certain areas in here that we have blocked off, that we know there are friendly civilians, and we aren't going to take those under fire.
The others?
The others, if there's somebody in there right now, they're Charlie as far as we're concerned.
Daily coverage of the war from the U.S. soldiers' point of view had a huge impact on U.S. public opinion about the war.
There is to be an assault. First, a barrage of cover fire, and then a charge across the street. The assault. But only one Marine runs forward into the fire, expecting the others to follow, not looking back to find out, disappears behind the cover at the wall, and before long is shot and wounded. 2 other Marines, one of whom is killed, get beyond the wall. And by night and the next day, the Marines have not moved farther. It is inch by shattered inch in the 5-day battle for Hue.
The American television reports inevitably came from the U.S. side of the fighting. But there was, of course, the other side of the fighting, from the perspective of North Vietnam. This Soviet film gives some idea of what it was like to be in Hanoi when the U.S. bombed the city.
Radio Hanoi warns citizens to take cover in shelters and the soldiers to be on the ready.
The Tet Offensive had resulted in stalemate. Despite an official limited ceasefire, the US bombing raids went on, and the Soviet government continued to support the North Vietnamese. This Soviet film was shown in Eastern Europe and in the West with an English-language soundtrack.
The United States has dropped 6 times more bombs on Vietnam than during the whole of World War II.
In making this film on reporting North Vietnam, the Soviet producers emphasized the resistance of the Vietnamese, even against the odds, and the horror of being bombed.
Back in the United States, they'll boast that they bombed a strategic target.
An East German television team followed the North Vietnamese as they fought back.
We covered over 3,000 miles, and everywhere we saw the traces of the Americans' war.
This film, like the Soviet film, was made for worldwide distribution. It too wanted to show the determination of the North Vietnamese to fight back and stress the commitment of its youngest citizens.
In 1967, this unit was founded, and since then they have worked together. Out at sea is the enemy, for there are anchored the ships of the 7th U.S. Fleet. They are near, but anyone who infringes the waters of North Vietnam receives a warm welcome. These brave girls sank 4 ships. Every day they practice and improve their military knowledge, for at any time Americans can resume their attack. The pilots are always ready for action. North Vietnam has not yet got peace. Every day, unmanned American spy planes fly over the country. In the 12 months since the bombing stopped, the Americans have broken their pledge 11,000 times, dropping bombs and firing rockets. The Vietnamese Air Force flies modern MiG-21 interceptors, armed with air-to-air rockets. Takeoff for a routine flight on the morning of August 14th. Dawn on the Ben Hai. This little river on the 17th parallel has become the dividing line which separates into 2 parts the country and the people of Vietnam. American reconnaissance planes circling over Ben Hai. The Hien Long Bridge, once the connecting link between North and South Vietnam, is destroyed. But the day will come when this bridge will again become the symbol for the unity of the Vietnamese people.
The Vietnam War went on for 6 more years. Unable to win, and with fading public support at home, the US government withdrew and the last American troops left Saigon in 1975.
I just want to testify what the Nam has done for me. Everybody sing.
This image of US soldiers in Nam contrasts vividly with the images of struggle and resistance which we've shown in the pro-Vietnamese films.
Nasty, sure been nasty to me. Everybody sing. Nasty, sure been nasty to me.
Good morning, Vietnam!